All right. Well, another episode of the podcast. I'm very excited to be here. The sun's setting to the side of me, and I have some things to talk about. Some things that I have kind of developed over the last few days as a concept that I've had in my brain, and I want to express that to others. I believe it is really a framework for a way of living that is becoming at least a little more popular recently. Some people are choosing to live in this way, and I believe not necessarily that it's better than any other framework or way of living, but it is worth to be explored. It is worth it having its own voice, and I would like to give it a voice, as it's kind of important to me. It's something that, at the very least, is very interesting, something I want to bring forward throughout my life, and that is the concept of what I call unknowable predictability. And this sounds like an oxymoron. It sounds, kind of stupid to say anyways. But what I mean by that is having a predictable way of doing things that is completely unknowable what will be actually done. It is basically just saying, whatever I say I will do, I will end up doing that. And looking and seeing how many things there are that can be done and not picking one lane. Being able to have this vast, well-rounded skill set behind you because you are predictable in your input, but not necessarily in the choices of what those are. This is something I find very fascinating. How do you become predictable in this sense, but also accept the flow of life? Because in my opinion, that is really where it comes from, is having a framework of predictability in the actual amount of effort, the actual input you're able to put into any single thing, but also going with the flow of life and saying, okay, when this thing comes at me, I can take it on. Something new here, something exciting here, or something that just needs to happen over here. All of those things are under my control because I've built this confidence with myself. This is something I am very excited to see grow in me already, and I like seeing it in other people too, when this is really what they feel like they should live like. And with this, you basically become an open book. An open book where every single day a new page is written. And that's the thing. Every single day, something is being added to your story, and yet your story spans multiple trilogies, multiple different origin stories, lore galore right there. But every single day, you're writing a new page. It is not written in chunks. It is not written at one certain year of your life. Every single day, though the story might be different between page 50 and page 100, it is still being written every single day. That is the part of life that I'm very excited about. Trying to hone in the skill of, okay, how do I write a good story today? How do I add on to what I have, but also create something new out of it every single time? I am the type of person who is very easily obsessive over new things that come into my life, whether that be little fidgets like flipping knives around, shuffling cards. I obsess over these things until I finally had enough with them. Or it could be a mental thing, trying to figure out my standpoint on something. I obsess over it until I get to that point. This is why this sort of framework is so interesting and exciting to me, is I get to come into it and say, well, yeah, I've already, for so many years of my life, had just this personality of picking up what comes in front of me and just not being able to put it down. Well, how do I do that in a way that is a little more predictable? A way where I don't know what's going to be set in front of me. I don't know necessarily what I'm going to take on next all of the time, but I know that when I do that every single time, my efficiency, the rate that I'm putting in the work and the effort is consistent, is to the level that I'm trying to achieve. That is where you get this framework. What creates the predictability is simply making a promise, keeping the promise. I've talked about this quite a lot already, but that is the basis framework for creating any confidence in yourself and figuring out what your standpoint is. After a little bit of trial and error with creating promises and holding promises, you will start to gain a little bit of a sense of your purpose. Your purpose is what makes the unknowable, the sea of thousands, millions, billions of different things that you could be doing right now, get filtered out down to a swimming pool. Still a very large selection, still thousands, millions of things, but you know that every single one of them is aligned with who you are as a person, who you are trying to be. Not only that, you understand that every single one of those things, how you should interact with them. For example, I had a friend recently. We were having a conversation about what was her purpose. What did she feel was her purpose to be here in life? And she brought up music. She's very connected with music, has spent so much time learning it, so much effort putting that into the work. And she believed music must be my purpose, right? And we thought about it for a little bit. And I came to her with the question, well, is it the music or is it the effect that you can bring to people through the music? She thought, well, yeah, I make music because I want to make people feel a certain way. I want to bring this joy that I've felt through music myself to other people. And then I go, well, there it is. That's your purpose. Music is simply the tool you are using in this moment to bring it forward. But look at everything else you're doing in life. Look at every single other aspect. You can also interact with that in a way of bringing joy to people. You have to know it first, but it comes as a filter and as almost a handbook in a way, where you start to see everything with a little bit of a different light. You get to look through a prism that really shows you, okay, this is why I'm doing this. It is not simply for the goal itself, for the sole achievement of doing such and such, but rather a bigger connected part of my life, of my purpose. This is within that pool of what I'm supposed to do. This is in the right direction. And I know how to interact with it now. I know what I should be focusing on in order to make this as truthfully what I need it to be for my sake and for the rest of the world's sake. That is beautiful. That is something that takes a lot of work, if we're going to be honest. Finding these purposes, finding out, okay, why am I here, is the biggest question. And it is one that is never fully answered. It is one that you can get a good grasp on. And I've certainly come into having a pretty good grasp over that as of the recent. But I know I am not done answering that question. And I know I will never be until my final day, because I have more to add on to that. But I know a very large chunk of my purpose right now. And that has changed how I look at all of life, how I interact with everything that I do, because I have this filter that basically says, okay, I'm not just doing this to achieve it. I'm doing this because it is aligned. It is directly on the path for my purpose. And that is the joy of it. I'm just taking a little look at my notes down here. I feel that it is nice to look out at the sea of these million, billion different choices that we have out there of what we could be doing with our time. I honestly believe it is nice to take a look and see what's out there every once in a while. You cannot constantly be in the state of trying to find something new, trying to take on something new, because you won't get any sort of proficiency in anything in that way. But you can take these moments of finding something that you haven't tried before, finding something, or usually I would say it comes quite passively, that these are things that are just kind of put in front of you and you go, oh, I never knew that was a thing. I didn't know, I thought that only happened in movies, but I see this person being able to do such and such. I would like to do that. And that kind of passion is something that I believe everyone should hold on to at a certain extent. But if you are trying to become unknowably predictable, you hold on to that for dear life. That is basically the core, where something is put in front of you. Okay, is it aligned with my purpose first? Is the question you have to ask. Is it in this pool of things I could be doing? Or is it simply the ocean of all the things out there that are actually viable? Or is this actually going to lead me in the right direction? But then after that, once you have that question asked, there is usually this little twinge of, but could I do it? Would I even be good at it? And that's what you have to override. Because the things that you want is that list of things that you would actually want to achieve. The things that you want to have as a skill in life or have behind you in life is far wider than the list of things that you will be naturally good at. The list of things that come easy to you is pretty small. Let's be honest. And if you are only going to stick to that list, you will find it isn't enough. That you aren't the happiest with the restriction that gives you, the boundary that sets up. If you are able to be okay with the uncomfortability of being bad at something for quite a while, you unlock the entire list of things that you want to do. These are that entire pool of things that are aligned with your purpose and are possible. Possible does not mean easy. Possible does not mean in a few months, but it does mean achievable. If you find it important enough, if you find it truthful to you, do it. It is not a fact of, will it come easy? Oh, am I a person who could learn music? Oh, am I physically fit enough to do this? Oh, do I have the right type of education? You can come up with a lot of excuses. And of course there are always things that, there are some certain cases where you can't necessarily become a doctor if you have no possible way of achieving a PhD. That's a little out of the league, but there are also tens and thousands of other things that can counteract that one thing that might not necessarily be achievable. Tens and thousands of them. So look at those instead of the few very small lists of things that may be feasibly out of reach. As I took a little look-see, peek-see back at my notes. This is a good one. we have to let go of hyper-perfectionism, but we do not have to let go of perfectionism. This is something that has came to me in life about a year ago, and it was difficult for me to swallow because I was always told if you have perfectionism, you have to kill it. You have to let go of it. You have to change yourself so that perfectionism doesn't exist. And I'm no longer within that belief. I rather believe that the perfectionism simply needs to be controlled. I believe in most people, it can't actually be killed. You can't make it go away permanently. You can distract from it, but the perfectionism in itself isn't negative. It is simply a drive to do something better. But how you judge yourself within that framework of a perfectionism is what is important. If you are completely worried about the output, then that perfectionism will eat you alive because there is no way that you can perfect output. There is a way that you can become a perfectionist for the input. This is the predictability that we're talking about. Again, if you make a promise and you are 100% sure you will hold that promise when you make it, well, you are a perfectionist in the input that you're putting in. You cannot guarantee that the input and the effort you give will lead to a certain result 100% of the time, but you can make sure you show up 100% of the time. If you look at your perfectionism and guide it in this way, saying, okay, I don't need to perfect the outputs, but rather the inputs. And usually the outputs, while not being 100% perfect, will be pretty darn good. A lot better than before when you were simply only focusing on the outputs. What happens for a lot of people, and myself included years prior, was I let my perfectionism stop me from ever basically releasing or finishing any of my work. I would start it with high hopes and be somewhat happy during the first half of getting it done. And then halfway through, I would just say, it's not going to be what I imagined at the start. It's not perfect. It's not what I need it to be. And I would stop. I wouldn't let myself release it. I wouldn't let myself finish it and move on to the next thing. I'd simply keep it on the back burner until it fried, until it was complete coal and nothing more. That doesn't really work. You can't really base a confidence in yourself off of hundreds of half-finished projects, but 5 finished projects, well, that gives you quite a bit of confidence. That shows you, okay, maybe I didn't do it perfectly, but I still showed up for myself. That time that I spent and that effort that I gave allowed me to finish it, allowed me to see what the end was like. Now I know every single part of it. Now I've learned front to back how to do a certain thing, and I didn't do it perfectly. That just gives me the opportunity to try it again, where I'm not going to do it perfectly again, but I'm going to be able to put the inputs in at a perfect rate, at a rate that no one else can overdo, because you can't show up more than 100% of the time. If you are able to allow yourself to show up 100% of the time for these things and make certain promises strong enough that they are non-negotiable, then you have set yourself up for a life of simply doing, simply achieving your purpose, fulfilling what needs to be fulfilled, because nothing holds you back from the actual logistics sides of it. There's no sense of, oh, am I the right person for this? It is a sense of, does this matter to me? Is this aligned with my purpose? Okay. If those two things are true, you can do it. No matter what. That is the predictability. What that thing actually is the unknowable. This is the unknowable predictability. And to end it off, I wanted to say that What did I want to say? I know I had a list here that I think I had one more thing. Yeah. I wanted to say that having this well-rounded perfectionism, as in the way of not being super good, the best at one certain thing. If you are taking on the unknowable predictability, you cannot be the best. You cannot be the top athlete, the Olympic gold medal winner every single time. That's not going to work. But you are the most well-rounded, a person who has the most efficiency in the most amount of things, the ratio there. That's something that interests me. Again, I do not say that this framework is for everyone, that everyone should operate in this way. I don't put it above any other way of living, but I like it. I feel it works for me. And I hope if you've listened to this, that maybe you've discovered, hey, this might work for me. Let's give it a try. Give some thought to it. See how it makes you feel. Give a little effort. Try to live in this way for a week, a month. You have all your life to try out new ways of living and give this one a shot. But the skill building that you have of this well-rounded center, that just excites me. The fact that, okay, sure, I won't be the best, but I can be very good or somewhat proficient at the very least in 100 different things. And I get to share that with all the people around me. That gets me excited. That gets me pumped for life. And it might just make you feel the exact same way. So, if you liked this video, if you found anything interesting, leave a comment. If you found anything to argue about, leave a comment. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you did not, give it a dislike. And if you want to hear more, well, just wait. I am releasing these every Wednesday, no matter what. But you can subscribe to get a little notification, I guess. But yeah, that is about it. As the sun is almost completely fully setted, I am probably going to go eat some. Ciao.